the situation in the United States as an example, yeah, you have the right to bear guns for security, so you feel safer. I don't think anybody feels safer now that there's shootings everywhere all the time in the schools every week. Uh, I think last year statistically there were over one school shooting per day in the United States last year. Uh, so are we all safer if you feel safer? At which point a collective security mechanism becomes a collective threat mechanism.
Collective insecurity. Yeah.
Correct. And I think this is a discussion at least NATO is not willing to have, but we should have it. It's the only collective security bloc that is expanding, if you think about it.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Roberto. And it fills me with happiness that you in Costa Rica can see this with so much realist clarity, whereas the Europeans and the Americans too are caught in some strange form of mass delusion that they lack the ability to see what their unilateral actions are doing toward the overall security environment, the security architecture of the Eurasian continent. But it's good that you see that so clearly.
I mean, it's hard. I enjoyed very much my master's process, probably because well, I'm not young and I've been around, and so you come to the course with some better understanding of power dynamics and international politics. You're more experienced and older, and it was brutal for me to realize how much of colonialism and Eurocentrism still remains in every element of our lives. And I think that we have to accept the fact that the Eurocentric system has worked in many ways, but not in security, not in terms of peace and security. Um, on the contrary, I mean, we cannot keep seeing the way the Europeans do, because war is so embedded in the mind of the Europeans that they cannot think a word without war. And if you cannot think a word without war, you cannot build it. That's why I criticize so much the fact that the 5 permanent members of the Security Council know nothing about peace. I mean, how are you going to bring peace if you know nothing about peace? You only know about war and colonialism. And are you really in charge of the world security? No, it's completely broken. I mean, Costa Rica should be a permanent member of the Security Council. We know nothing about war. I mean, the only thing we have to know about war, that is that it should not happen. And if it happens, it has to stop as soon as possible. And that's the only thing you have to know about war. And we know that very well. We should be in the Security Council, as a permanent member. Um, so I mean, it's just these, you know, many, and these very well. Many of the discussions and debates on international law remain very Eurocentric, and even the fact that material is mostly in English is an issue. The language is still it's an issue, or in French. And si vous parlez pas de français, on est tout mal. So um, it's I mean, to me, it's just been very interesting to face colonialism in the legal, in the law. I mean, you can bring it in the law. You see traces of this colonialism, of this warlike mentality, And I think it would do very, very good for European countries to hear other points of view, particularly coming from people who has a different experience regarding peace and war. A different experience because Costa Rica never thought of its neutrality as a political tool, like a
Chessboard.
chessboard piece, exactly like Swiss, that it was recognized because it was in a treaty, because it would serve all these empires if we had a central state in the center of Europe. Um, eh, no, here it was our own decision. And it was not because it's in your interest, no, it's because we think it's in the interest of everybody that we are not part of any other conflict. So yeah, this is something that has to change. I mean, we really cannot continue with uh, so much burden as the Eurocentric understanding of international law brings. We need more fresh ideas.
I, I absolutely agree with you, Roberto. And if they ever bring create the vote Costa Rica for a permanent seat of the Security Council, you will have my vote, and I will once you sit there because you absolutely understand how to de-escalate this European-made 500-year colonial project BS that comes with war and death and destruction. Roberto, I always ask my guests at the very end, is there any place where you regularly publish things where people can find your writings?
Not really. It is not until very recently that I decided to devote myself more on the academic side. Pretty much because I find myself in the need to bring these other perspective or to push it somehow. So I haven't really published much. I'm in the process of doing that. I think you were kind enough to put my thesis on your website, something that I very much appreciate. But for the moment, maybe you find some articles, on Google.
I mean, there's is no need. I just ask so people can know. And everybody, I will put a link to Roberto's master thesis on Costa Rica's neutrality and the precedents for unilateral actions into the link of as a link into the description of this video. Roberto Zamora, thank you very much for your time today.
My pleasure. It was a great opportunity to bring out these issues in the Costa Rican experience, which I think has been underestimated. And Really, I don't know if this is some nationalistic thing or not, but I really think it would be worth it to give a little bit more study to the Costa Rican experience and understand it not as a selfish act, but as a tool for de-escalation, pacification, and more friendly relations in the international concert. So, Pascal, thank you very much.